Hello friends, I'm Hussain Laghari and today we have Mr. Jim Lochead and we will discuss with him and we have 5 questions from Mr. Jim Lochead. Before moving to these questions, I would like to ask Mr. Jim Lochead to introduce himself by his own perspective and to share his journey for preserving Mother Nature and for the children. So, Mr. Jim Lochead, would you like to share your story before we start with these questions?
Yeah, hello. I'm Jim Lochead. I've been an humanitarian and activist for all my life. I've been volunteering in my community since 1970, and I have been traveling around the world the last 12 years on 6 continents, helping real people. I'm a master carpenter, and I have a lot of my work all over the world, and I have great concern for the world today. And I come from a perspective that is not solely a Western perspective. My information has not come from CNN, and has not come from Fox. It has not come from, the BBC, the typical outlets that we are all very familiar with. My perspective includes the whole world.
So tell us about your experience regarding the children. You have been working for children since last few decades. So
Again,
how would you
I
how would you explain it?
yeah, I explain at times that if you're helping the women, you're helping the children. Of course, the children are our future, and we have a great responsibility to the children. And so whenever I'm somewhere like Fiji or the Philippines or even France, I give particular attention to the children. Sometimes there aren't children around. It's not just about the children, but it's about Mother Earth. It's about, building a future for the children.
Okay, can we start with first question? First question is, what does it mean by Western imperialism as per your context, as per your perspective?
Western imperialism. I've done a lot of research on this, and I've written some pretty good stuff recently because I have friends all around the world and I connect and I communicate. Western imperialism started, okay? It actually has a starting date, which is actually 1441. And this is written in Spanish history, in Iberian history. And this is when Captain Gonsalves was sent to Africa to kidnap Africans into slavery. And this is written in history. This is known, and it even appears in articles like in Wikipedia, where they say, you could say this is the period where Western imperialism started, 1441, okay? 1492 is the Hollywood number, that Columbus was a hero and all this crap. And after 1441, a number of the European powers got together, backed by the Vatican, and they started the slave trade, and they started their invasion of all the world. And Western imperialism is not a proud history. Western imperialism is a list of the most heinous crimes in all history: stealing land, destroying cultures, sterilizing women, killing children for profit. This is the, if you're an honest person, this is really how you would talk. There's no sugarcoating. I don't have to be somebody I'm not a politician. I don't have to be sugarcoating what I say. I'm 73 years old. I just had a stroke. This is my, I'm going to do the best I can for the children for the rest of my life.
Okay. We are not talking about politicians here right now, because this conversation is all about a common person, a common individual who is been working for human rights, environment, and mother earth. So my next question is about Islamophobia. Currently and since last 2 decades, certain section of Western society is promoting these type of terms to create an environment for their bloody wars and for their military complexes to get benefit. So my question is, how do you describe Islamophobia?
One of the saddest parts of history is the last 270 years of the United States, in which so many nations in the world have been invaded, and all the destruction that included it. It's a history that also includes the decimation and genocide of the first Americans. It also includes the history of building stuff on slavery. It also includes the abuse of the Irish as laborers, the Chinese as laborers. It's not the fairy tale that's told in Hollywood. The evidence, of course, is outstanding. Islamophobia. Islamophobia is a script that the ruling elite of Western imperialism has created. We all know that the Western media has a problem with the truth, okay? The Western media creates its own narrative. Nothing that appears in the Western media, which could include Pakistan, it could include Singapore, it could include Hong Kong, it could include Australia, South America. This dialogue has been a false dialogue forever. I mean, there's a million quotes by some of the best people in the world about how the media is so manipulated, so contrived, so malicious. And so even when we go back, even into the Hollywood movies of the World War II era, there were always, this was being built. Again, realize that these people, the privileged elite of the West, they work over generations. They don't just think of, they're believing in their own lies, but they work over generations. So even during the World War II period, there were movies of, rotten, nasty, bad Islamic people. And so they've worked on this scenario for a long time. And this whole point that's been going on before 9/11, there was, if the truth counts, and I know it doesn't, I know everything's a lie, there were no Islamic people involved with 9/11. None. If you're looking for proof, there's enough proof. That was a story, okay? First of all, in whatever happened in Manhattan, there's no evidence, none. There is no engines, There's no fuselage, there's no wings, there's no baggage, there's no bodies, there's no seats from any planes. We have to quit
Actually,
these lies.
actually, they had nothing.
So the Islamic people have been set up. This is something that they decided to do. They demonized the Islamic people. They created an enemy. Some people are, most people are, of course, very fooled, and there are incidences of certain bombings in the Islamic world over the last 20 years, coincidentally, Hollywood, CIA. And I would have to say, maybe one or two of them was actually done by some crazy Arab person, but the rest of them are all created and paid for through secret agencies, probably getting the checks from Langley, Virginia, if it counts, and if anybody cares about the truth. And so these incidences, where the media has turned the hatred towards the Islamic people, Hussain is Islamic from Pakistan. He knows these are very peaceful people. They have great family values. They will never leave you hungry. If you need a place to sleep, they'll offer you a bed. That's their tradition. They never deviate from that.
Exactly. So let's move to our next question. My next question from you is, what are current opportunities for Asia and Africa to grow economically and politically?
The world has changed. The new era is already deep into 20 years. No, you're not going to see it in the Western media. You're only going to see the bullshit. You're going to see the lies. You're going to hear the lies in the Western media. Already, by the numbers, not imaginary, not my illusion, Asia is taking over economically, okay? Asia has a large population, and I have to mention this, okay? I've written something recently, okay? And I've written that the game is over for the West on December 2nd, 2021. What date's today? December 2nd, 2021. Laos, tiny, teeny Laos, now has a railroad system that is far superior to the United States. Okay. They are opening that railroad today, which is Laos National Day. This railroad was built for the Laotian people by China in 5 years, okay? Once the world understands what is happening, what the change is about. In other words, we know the U.S. likes to have wars, and they've had wars for all but 14 of the last 270 years, and Jimmy Carter talks about that. China has no interest in imperialism, and you can check 5,000 years of history. They are currently building mega infrastructure projects in 140 countries. America has military bases in 140 countries. China is building railroads. The Western Empire hasn't done much, but in Fiji they have a little train track, and it's a sugar train. It's for the sugar cane. It's not for the people. And so we have a difference between the East and the West, and we have to acknowledge that. We can't be like the Western activists that always default to, no matter what, that they defend imperialism and they blame China. That game is over. It's over. There will be no bombing in China. You cannot bomb China. The West cannot bomb China. The West cannot bomb China because if the West bombs China, all the shelves in all the stores in all the West will be empty. Okay? All of the CEOs for the top 1,000 brands around the world are deeply invested in China, where they have their best factories and their best stores, and all of them, name me one politician, Biden, Bezos, Zuckerberg, Prince Andrew, they are all sending their children to learn Mandarin. Okay, this is the truth. This is what's happening. They cannot bomb China. If they bomb China, the first bomb would destroy 6,000 KFCs, 3,000 McDonald's, and GM's biggest investment in their history, in their most modern plants. China bought out Volvo. China bought out Volvo and built Volvo's first new plant in 40 years. Then China worked it out where they could give Volvo back to Volvo. Volvo now owns Volvo in China. Volvo now is going like crazy. But China's not stupid. China doesn't want a piece of America. They want to do business. And with business, there's things that go along with business. So China right now has their company BYD. And BYD makes electric buses. Well, America won't let BYD sell electric buses in America. So China has worked it out where they have negotiated some kind of connection with some Americans that they would have the franchise of BYD in America. So since BYD is probably the number one company to making electric buses, that they're building a super plant in America for BYD. Well, BYD is a Chinese company, but it's not being listed as a Chinese company. You know, Volvo now owns Volvo back. China is helping so many countries. Anyway, Africa, what if we can study outside of the Western media, Africa is ready to boom. Africa is ready to boom even more than maybe even China, because Africa has so much need and they've been neglected for so long. So along with, and of course the Western press has the credit debt trap, and of course they blame China for everything China does is wrong. Well, the people of South Sudan with their brand new hydroelectric dam are pretty happy about it. The people in Kenya with their brand new railroad, they're pretty happy about it. Nigeria, people in Lagos are pretty happy about their new railroad. Where else? Ethiopia. In Ethiopia, China has already done over 3,700 jobs. China has over 200,000 engineers currently working in Africa. They're not going to take over Africa. They love China. They're going to retire early with damn good money, and they're going to go back to China and spend their money. One of the best places, and this is in Africa, there's a country called Pakistan, and they have a thing called the economic corridor. And there is things going on in Pakistan, and you might not see them from every city. You might not see the cranes everywhere, because we've talked about that. But there's a city called Gwadar, which is a port city, which was very basic, very simple, and very small. But by 2030, Gwadar is going to have the capacity to have a population of 30 million people. It's not going to be a city like New York where it's just all concrete and steel. There is eco-sustainability built into all of these plans along the Belt and Road. And these cities are lined with parks in the residential areas of these cities that China has been developing. You cannot walk out your front door without being in greenery. And so there's parks that travel all through it, and they're designed by some of the most incredible design companies in the world. And one of them in particular that's my favorite is a group called Chapman Taylor. And if you look up their videos, you'll see some pretty spectacular stuff. So China is trying to build economy in these things. Of course, if China is the supplier of the world, of course they need raw materials. How can they supply Africa with everything and only get the raw materials from China? So they're going to get copper from the Congo. They're going to get, tin from Indonesia. And in turn, they're going to build stuff and then they're going to go back. They have a super high-speed railroad that's going to be done next year in Indonesia. They are building high-speed rail in Malaysia. And if you look on Google, 90% of the articles are going to tell you that it doesn't exist. Well, I've got the photos, I've got the videos. And then they did the railroad in Laos. They just did a railroad in Vietnam. Cambodia is being helped. It goes on and on. 140 countries. China is helping 140 countries that have signed Memorandum of Understanding, MOU. Look for that name, along the Belt and Road, BRI. And this includes, and they're not mentioned yet, it includes France. I've got the video where Xi and Macron are signing an MOU, and a catalog is being made. Italy is in the Belt and Road. Slovakia, China just saved I think it's the Slovakian steel industry and kept all the workers working and rebuilt their whole factory and saved their industry. They did the same thing for British steel.
Okay, thanks for your detailed answer. Now, I would like to ask you about the human rights. The basic concern of a common person in every society is his or her right. So, what do you think about technology? How technology can contribute in human rights globally?
Well, technology, if you're looking from the West, you sometimes hear negative things about technology, but technology, can never be stopped. Technology is going to keep moving forward. And so people who are aware of technology and are developing technology are going to have a better economy in the future. So for developing countries, of course, the most important thing is the economics. That's why China, when they provide their catalog for the Memorandum of Understanding, some of the biggest items are always the hydroelectric dam, because electricity is kind of important, and the railroads. And everywhere this happens, the economies of those areas start expanding. They start, and these aren't things that are done for rich people. This is stuff that affects the whole populace. And and also, when you have a country like Laos, okay, like every country, is a beautiful country, but is a landlocked country, has not had much development, and you build a whole complete brand new national rail system, your tourist industry is going to be booming. China understands the importance of the tourist industry, and their internal tourist industry is a miracle to behold. China has 2,700 glass bridges, and these are just tourist things. Well, these things are what create economy, and every country loves to have a good tourist industry.
Sir, sorry to interrupt, but the situation of human rights in China is also questionable, especially their role in Xinjiang province of China, western province of China. Situation of people there.
Right. Well, if you believe the Western press, and they lie, So if you believe them, that's your own problem. In Xinjiang, okay, over the last 70 years, okay, the population in Xinjiang has increased more than any other area in China. Xinjiang now has high
Because,
speed.
sir, you know why population is increased there? Because Han Chinese being sent over there to establish their towns and to establish their businesses
Right. The
to
Western,
undermine their local population.
right. The Western media, right. The Han Chinese, in China, if the truth counts, okay, there are 56 ethnic minorities, okay, living in harmony in China, okay, if the truth counts. If you are not Han Chinese, if you are an ethnic minority, okay, you gain extra points in order to go to college, okay? In one of the conversations between George Galloway and Li Jingjing mentioned one of her friends in Xinjiang that was one of the 55 minorities, the 56 being the Han, which are the majority. There's always a majority. Somebody's going to be the majority. Well, the Han Chinese are aware of this. The Communist Party, the best governments on the planet, is aware of this. And so they have given the minorities extra opportunities and extra points in these things to bring them up. They've done a lot of work, in Xinjiang, where, according to the Western media, that they're not allowed to worship in their mosques, and there's 26,000 active mosques and 28,000 imams in Xinjiang. Of course they can, but if you want to believe the Western lies, go right ahead. They in the bookstores and in the schools, they speak their native language. In Xinjiang, not everybody is Islamic. Not all of the Islamic people are Uyghurs. There's so many differences.
Sir, there are few other issues with China also. I'd like to point out, like Manchurian people and the people of Inner Mongolia in China and the people of Tibet. They all have been facing issues politically and economically. Their resources being used, and they not have been getting as much central government or Chinese companies been exploiting their resources.
Again, I'm not gonna try to speak with the Western mindset. I've expelled that from I know that they're lies. In Mongolia, okay, they have Ordos, the city of Ordos, okay? Ordos was slower in developing than Shenzhen, okay? There's a reason, in other words, everything's not, if you expect China to be perfect on everything, then, what can I say to anybody? But Inner Mongolia is getting a tremendous amount of attention. And Ordos was the first city that the West started expressing that China is just building these cities for no reason, these ghost cities. Well, of course, that's a delusional narrative, okay? I've seen quite a few videos from Ordos, from Inner Mongolia, okay? I can look beyond the host that's talking. I can see the Inner Mongolia has better infrastructure than the United States, okay? Inner Mongolia, I'm sure Ordos has a connection of high-speed rail. Xinjiang has a connection with high-speed rail. Tibet now has a connection with high-speed rail. The people of Tibet, all the stories, 100% of the stories from the West about Tibet, Xinjiang, Inner Mongolia, Hong Kong, are all fabrications, okay? The Tibetan people have also doubled their lifespan from 35 years to over 70 years under China. When they were with the Dalai Lama, okay? There are people in Tibet that are still alive today that are missing an arm because one of the monks wanted to have target practice and shoot him, and that was legal. They were slaves of Tibetan people under the Dalai Lama and stuff. They're not today. Well, I'm sorry if that story doesn't match your Western dialogue. I'm sorry, but maybe you better do some research, people, because you know that your media in the West lies, and you believe all the lies about China. I can't even talk to my Western activist friends. As soon as I mention China, they start defending Western imperialism. Pretty boring.
So we are not talking about the perspective of Western media, or even, for example, I would like to give some examples. These are not being discussed in waste, but still those things are truth. Like all the countries in Americas, particularly in Northern America, they have eliminated majority of the population of natives there, particularly in US and Canada. Or for example, I would like to share the example of Siberian areas of Russia. Russia has occupied these areas in 16th and 17th centuries, and they have expelled and like they have dominated their native populations. Like, for example, we have the example of Australia, where Australian people and especially Europeans dominated their natives.
Yes.
Same like these examples, Han Chinese and their dynasties have been dominating Manchurian populations, Manchurian people, and western areas of China, where some Turkish people, or like people from their lineage been living there. These all been dominated by Han Chinese and these were not part of China or mainland in few centuries ago, but they have occupied these areas and local tribes and local kingdoms. So we can't exclude China from these worst stories of the history. Like we have been talking about America, Russia, Australia, where these are the examples of their dominance and their occupation over natives. Same thing had been and has been happening here in China also. So it's not a Western perspective or Western story. It's the truth. So we should accept
our history.
So let's
and,
move
and
to
what,
so
and
let's
what
move to our
you
next
read
question.
is the Western dialogue. Okay, what can I say? If you study history, if you know history, if you're honest, okay, the Western imperialism has committed minimally 2 billion deaths around the world, okay? And it is known by some people as the African Holocaust, as the Holocaust of the Americas, okay? 100%. This was not done by China, okay? China does not have 140 military bases around, 1,000 military bases around the world. This dialogue.
But they are on the path.
Hussein, it's not even. Mistakes. It's not even. Okay, in the Indus subcontinent. Okay, in the Indus subcontinent, as admitted in paperwork in my research, that the British were responsible for something like killing Pakistani and Indians to the amount of over 1 billion people. Okay? Now, if you want to say that China killing nobody, okay, or whatever, show me some proof. And I don't doubt that the Han Chinese at times that have been in the majority have had some infractions. But when you're talking about, an infraction that you can't even mention, but you're talking about 2 billion people killed, stolen land, South America stolen, North America stolen, Australia stolen, Fiji stolen, and the humanitarian crimes against the people of Pakistan and India. These are, you can't compare a crime where somebody jaywalks across the street to killing 2 billion people around the world. You can't. That doesn't even it out.
Exactly.
So it doesn't. So if
and we can't compare, and there,
which I get from my Western activists,
that's the reason they have
deflect.
criticized.
They deflect from their own crimes and they defend imperialism, and then they want to fill the conversation up with, well, China. Do you know the history of the Korean War? In the Korean War, America went to the Korean War, okay? America had no right to go to the Korean War. There was no reason for it. That was a crime. You know what they did when they went to the Korean War? They bombed.
And the crimes they did in Vietnam
killed as many people. Their soldiers, the American soldiers, were told to kill any gook that you could kill. They would make jokes if they would shoot a pregnant woman that they killed 2 people with 1 bullet. This history of what America did in Korea is as horrible as anything. But there's a million stories like this
in recent decades.
Exactly.
So, sir, my last question is about the globalization. We are living in an age of in globalization, and we are connected socially, politically, economically in various ways. So my question is, what is the next stage for human civilization as a global culture, and what are the disadvantages of that stage and that condition? Because currently we are witnessing that there are so many cultures and identities which are being dominated by few identities or few cultures because of this globalization.
Well, and we've talked about this before. One is that as far as the disadvantages of globalization, okay, there's not much to talk about that because it's going to happen. It's already happening. It already has happened. If you go into the Pakistani stores, every item is not from Pakistan. It's from all over the world. And of course, most of them are probably from China, because Pakistan and China have a rich history together. What's going to happen is that no longer are we going to, as the world, going to have to be more Americanized, okay? We're not going to be Coca-Cola. We're not going to be McDonald's. These things are going to exist. Of course, I'm not afraid of a Coca-Cola bottle, and I don't care about McDonald's. But what's going to happen, and you see it, is that each country, Pakistan especially, you understand, are going to have a wonderful opportunity to re-energize their own history, okay? It's going to become a period of positive nationalism. It's not going to be a period where each country has to submit to the West and conform, okay? Yes, I'm lucky because English has become the lingua franca, okay? Yeah, Pakistanis speak Urdu, but they speak English, okay? The Chinese speak Chinese, but they're teaching all their kids English because that's the business. You cannot be an airline pilot unless you speak English. These rules are already in place. I don't say that that's necessarily a good thing, but that's what's happened. Now we have to build from that. So Pakistan is going to have the chance to look back in its history with pride, with positive pride, not negative national fascist pride, and because of the way things are developing in the world, there is a responsibility falling on the leaders. And Imran Khan's a good example, and I know a lot of Pakistani people, good for them that they're not, they're not completely sold. They have questions. Good, they should have questions. But when I hear a leader who's talking about stopping corruption, my ears listen up, and then I watch. And if he's doing nothing about it, like what the Americans do, who don't even talk about corruption because the whole American political system is just
it's same way as American president talks stopping terrorism.
Right, exactly. I wrote a meme. If you want to stop, you can stop 95% of the world's terrorism in a month if they would stop releasing the checks from Langley, Virginia. Okay? The United States just increased their budget, and that's what's happened. That's why Inner Mongolia is making the news, because the United States is working on another color revolution in Inner Mongolia, but they're not going to win. It's so stupid. When are they? If you listen to some of the world's leaders, and you were talking about this, they are looking for friendship, cooperation, peace, and prosperity. How can you argue with that? Okay, the Americans are still talking about war. If the Americans go to war with China, nobody can possibly be that foolish. Okay, every corporation in America that's heavily invested in China is going to go out of business.
It can be ended when military complex is ended, or military complex is not running America until military complex is active in the form of Pentagon, then it will not end. So first, it's required for American people to awake and to understand the condition, that how power structure is being fabricated or engineered there. So then they can understand, or then they can change the condition. And same formula or same power structure is here in Pakistan and some other countries. So there are some invisible forces who are running the show, who are running and who are using the puppets in this game. So I hope these conditions will change. So I want to thank you for your time and for this discussion, for this conversation. And our next conversation will be on Afghanistan, as we had discussed before. So it will be an interesting conversation. The condition of Afghanistan, and the history of Afghanistan is also has so many layers, so many things which are not being discussed properly. So we will try to explore things, and we will try to discuss undiscussed things regarding Afghan history and particularly political history of Afghanistan. So till then, thanks, and till then,
okay.
Bye. Thank you, sir.
Hussain, thank you for the opportunity, as always, again, for friendship, cooperation, peace, and prosperity, to build a future for the children. This is what's going to happen.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.